And my father always said, it's a big deal.
I have a hard time.
It was time to be fearless.
30 million people. That's how many people they say are enslaved in the world today. Slavery. It's kind of cold, harsh, right? Makes you kind of shift in your seat, look the other way. And I bet some of you are probably already thinking, I hope this guy's not going to talk about slavery for 12 minutes. So let me try something else. Instead, let me tell you a story. A story of a 9-year-old girl who 2 years ago goes walking into a gallery in Sonoma, California. In the back of the gallery, she sees a photo. And in the photo, there are 2 boys, much like her, the same size, same age. But these boys, they have rocks on their back, rocks as big as their bodies. And around these rocks are a rope that go over their heads. And these boys are asked to, or forced to, walk down the hill all day long carrying these rocks. Now, Vivian, at 9 years old, doesn't really understand this, right? Her parents tell her that these boys are enslaved, but as a 9-year-old, we can't understand the complexities of slavery. However, she knows that it's wrong, that these boys should not have to do this. So she says, I want to do something about it. Now, her parents, wanting to be encouraging, say, okay, darling, what do you want to do? And she says, I want to free 100 kids. Now, a quick Google search will tell you that 100 kids is roughly $150,000. So, of course, the next question becomes, how, at 9 years old, are you going to raise $150,000? But, of course, Vivian is already ready for this. She has an answer for that, too. She says, I'm going to sell my lemonade. And, again, her parents are realizing that this is pretty crazy, that this is probably impossible. But let's give it a try. At least she'll learn to count change. She'll get out in the community. So she goes out there with her lemonade stand, and she's got her sign saying that she is trying to free child slaves. And the next day, she goes out again, and she goes out again, and she goes out again. And her parents are saying, this is okay, you can stop anytime. And she says, no, I want to do this. I want to raise $150,000. And all of a sudden, people start talking and sharing, and communities start coming together. And after 173 days straight, she does it. She raises $150,000, and she makes a real impact on child slavery. So let's compare the two. 30 million people in the world are enslaved today. How many of you, and be honest, are going to bring that home and tell your friends and family at dinner? I don't think so, right? It's just not something you talk about. But the story of a 9-year-old girl using lemonade to change the world, that's something we'll share. That's something we'll talk about. And so you see, story is our superpower. It is this thing that is amazingly powerful at connecting others, at bringing us together. Story is quite literally the retelling of events. So when I tell you about Vivian going into the gallery that day, that is the example of a story. And every day we tell stories and we consume stories. What a lot of us don't realize is that story is deep within us. Before we had written language, before I could write something down and pass it on, we used story. We would tell stories so that we could share ideas and values and communicate experiences. The earliest stories were cave paintings. They could show you where to find food or how to prepare for a hunt. And so the earliest stories then are about me taking my experience and adding to yours so that you can do something better. So we've been telling stories forever, and they're deep within us. It's in our DNA. We are hardwired, right? It's a social thing. When a friend says, hey, I've got a story, we lean in. We take notice. They're sticky. So we have this thing inside of us that is story, that is really, really powerful at connecting people to things that we care about. And it's more important than ever today, because it's estimated that we see 4,000 to 5,000 ads a day, right? Increasingly, space is taken up with messages telling us what to do and how to feel. And then on top of that, we're busier than ever. Our attention spans are dwindling. We're on multiple devices. And more than anything, what we really want is connection, authenticity. We don't want to be lied to. And story is what cuts through all of that noise. Story can cut through that mass pile of messages. It can grab our attention. It can be remembered, and it can create real connections because story lets us be a witness, right? Because I can shake you and I can tell you about the 30 million people that are enslaved. I spent a year in that world. It's terrible. I can tell you how bad it is, and I can say, please, please, donate money, volunteer. But what you're going to say is, hold on, big boy, I'm not sure that this is for me. I'm not sure that I'm ready to give up my money or my time. Let me come to my own conclusions. And if I tell you a story of a 9-year-old girl and what she did, well, then you can be the witness, right? You can learn about it. You can decide for yourself what you want to do. And that is so much more powerful. So what we have to then think about is how can we unleash our inner superpower that is story? Because we all have things that we care about, right? We all have things that we want to connect people to. We have ideas and businesses and all kinds of things. But so often we just go with the facts. We go with the 30 million. We don't go with the story. So what I want to share with you today then is how we can unleash our inner superpower that is story. And there are two big things that makes a story irresistible. And, well, this documentary that we made on Vivian took us a year, cost us $250,000, took a lot of resources. It doesn't have to take a long time to tell a strong story, to verbally, to just think about it and create something that you can go home and share with colleagues or your partner or your friends and family to connect them to the things that you care about. So let's start with those two things that we can do to unleash our inner superpower that is story. The first is that we need to lead with people, because as people, we connect with people. That's not to say that I can't tell you a story about a robot or a tree or a rock, but for many of us, we probably don't remember an awesome story about a rock, right? The more relevant it is to us and our experience, the more we care. And from a high level, that means people. As people, we connect with people. Now, you might be wondering, what about those stories that have a pig or a brave little toaster? Well, what do? We personify them. We give them the same attributes of a person. And for those of you that have a dog or a cat at home, what do we normally do? We give them personalities and a voice, right? So that we can interpret them through our reality and connect with them more. So when it comes to our documentary, that then means this 9-year-old girl, she's the person that we lead the story with. But not just any person. There's something inside that person we really need to look for. We need a person that has really strong desire. Desire matters most. Because we can't expect our audience to care more about our story than our person wants something. So for Vivian, that is her going out for 173 days straight. You seeing that passion on her face that she won't give up no matter what. It's hearing that her parents are out on a date night at a theater, and they get a 911 call from Vivian, who goes, oh my God, we forgot to do our stand today. And they rush out of the theater, drive home so that they can go out and sell lemonade. That's how bad she wants it. And the thing is, when we see a character, a person with really strong desire, we naturally connect. We connect emotionally. So now we've got people invested in our story. They care. And here's where the magic comes in. Rather than having you need to care about slavery, I can make you care about her and you want it for her. You want to see if she can reach her goal. So we need a character that has really strong desire. But if I tell you about Vivian, she gets up in the morning and she goes out and plays in the swing and she pets her dog and she has lovely water fights and life is beautiful and everything is perfect. It's not long before you start going, why are you telling me this? And where is this going? There's something else. There's another ingredient besides just a person with really strong desire. That is conflict. Conflict is the second vital part to any story. Now, really simply, if all of a sudden smoke started coming in this room, if it started coming in the doors, everybody would stop paying attention to me and you'd pay attention to the smoke, right? You'd wonder, what's happening? What is everybody else doing? Where's it coming from? Should I leave? Everything else in the world would fade out. So conflict acts on our brains by causing us to focus and pay attention. So as the storyteller, it's pretty powerful, right? It's part of what makes it a superpower, because all of a sudden, you've got your audience's attention. When we're scrolling through Facebook, if we see a person with really strong desire and we see conflict, we pay attention. But more than just focusing our attention, conflict does something else. When Vivian walks into the gallery and she sees the photo of these enslaved boys, she says, I want to free 100 kids, and her parents say, that's $150,000. Well, we, as the audience, go, does she do it? Can she do it? How does she do it? So conflict also serves the purpose of creating a question. It gives the opportunity for growth, for challenge, for something to be overcome. And we, as humans, are naturally driven to find the answers to questions we care about. Now, this one's a little bit tricky on the part of the storyteller, because if I can connect you to a character and create a question you want to know the answer to, well, how are you going to find that answer? You got to listen to my story, right? So that is what is so powerful. Conflict is that fuel that propels your story, that can carry your viewer through it. So we have to bring those elements together in whatever it is you want to talk about and you want to connect people to. We need to think about how we can lead with a person with really strong desire and pair that with conflict, something to overcome. Now, a lot of you will probably listen to this and feel like, that's neat. Yet you'll still go home and you'll have a business or an idea or something you care about. You want to go on a vacation and you're still going to lead with the facts. We're still just going to tell people, well, look at the features. Look at how amazing this carrot juicer is. Look at how cheap it is. Look at how many carrots I can blend in a minute. Right? We just naturally, we know it to be true, so I'm just going to tell you the facts and why you need this carrot juicer because it's going to change your life. But here's the thing. We're not driven by facts. We're driven by emotion, and we often don't understand all the things that influence our decisions. There was a man named Elliot, and Elliot had brain damage, and he could no longer experience emotions. The first thing that happened to Elliot, his life fell apart. His marriage, his relationships, he lost his job. But crazier than all of that is that Elliot, without the ability to experience emotions, could not make a decision. And I mean like turkey or roast beef took an hour. Making an appointment for lunch took all day. His life fell apart because without the ability to experience emotions, all of a sudden, he couldn't make a decision. And so story is this way of really emotionally connecting your viewer. Because the reality is that we are a lot more rationalizing than we are rational. I mean, we all want to think that we're fully in control of our behavior, that we know exactly why we did what we did. But the truth is, we only know a small fraction. This is a really fascinating study done in 1996 by a guy named John Barg, and he had a room much like this, and he brought a group full of university students into it. He gave everybody a survey, but on half of those surveys, there were words hidden to do with being old. So think like Florida, slow, retirement. Now, he didn't care what your answer to the survey was. What they wanted to see was when you left, how long would it take you to walk down the hall? For real. This is for real. And what they found was that those that were given the surveys that had words to do with being old, well, they walked slower when they left. And other studies where you put a pencil in your mouth and it causes you to smile, and you'll self-report your happiness as being higher. Or if I print a resume on heavier paper, you will interpret that candidate as more serious. So we only understand a small fraction of what affects us. And story is a way of cutting through all of that noise, of grabbing people emotionally and taking them on a journey and allowing them to be a witness, allowing them to come to their own conclusions. And when we do that, we can get incredible results. When we screened our documentary, stand with me, the one on Vivian, I want to tell you one more story. We're in Denver, and a group of school kids come in. 40 kids that are 8 to 12 years old with like one chaperone. And as one of the directors of the film, I'll be honest, I'm freaking out a little bit. Because our movie does have like real slavery, right? Like you see the front lines of the issue. And I'm like, if these kids start freaking out and they want to leave, their parents aren't there, nobody can protect them, we're going to be getting calls and letters and like, oh man, this is the end of us. But at the end of the movie, it was those 8, 9, and 10-year-olds that stood up and had the most insightful, intelligent questions. One 8-year-old stands up and says, I'm going to watch where I get my Halloween candy from now on. I want to make sure that it doesn't come from the hands of a slave. A 12-year-old girl stands up and says, I feel like all of a sudden my voice matters, like I can do something. And she goes out and starts a lemonade stand in her community. So what I want to leave you with is I want you to think about what you care about and realize that story is what brings us together. Story is what connects us. So think about what you desire. What would you do for 173 days straight without stopping because it lights you on fire? And then think about the moment that you ran into conflict, the moment that something shook your world, that you walked into that gallery and you saw that photo and you said, I have to do something about this. Because if you can lead your story with a person with strong desire and you can take them to that moment where you run into conflict, well, then you've got them emotionally connected, you have their attention, and you create a question, and they will stick with you. And if a story can take a 9-year-old girl from a street corner to making a massive difference and being the front line of global dialogue on slavery, then what can your story do for you?